So let's get right down to business, children. Kids, let's get right down to business. Um, I've noticed I've noticed what appears to be literal Norwegian children have subscribed to my channel, or the Norwegian authorities, either or. That being said, I've noticed that one literal Norwegian child has subscribed to my channel, that appears to use like Monkey Tag or VR Chat or some shit. And to that kid, I say, it's over, and well, because of the time you were born, Norwegian child, this may seem like common sense to you that it is impossible to actually make it anywhere on social media, but see, I lived in a day and age where that was not a far-fetched idea, because social media used to be made by thought, like, social media used to be designed by smart people, and smart people used to have more control over how things went down. Smart people used to be more in control of how things went down on social media. But now, Norwegian child that subscribed to my channel, now you're never going to make it as a YouTuber because you were born in Norway and you're pale. So, like, all people, Norwegian child that subscribed to my channel, what you need to do, instead of like dressing up as a bumblebee or something on VR Chat and exposing yourself to sickos and weirdos, because I know VR Chat on the surface seems like an innocent place, meant for pale Norwegian children such as you to have a good time, but in reality there's a bunch of sickos and creeps on VR Chat, and they don't want you to get positive recognition or attention on the internet. See, I mean, you could be a sicko yourself. For all I know, Norwegian child that subscribed to my channel, you could be a weirdo yourself for all I know, and you could be like a pig rolling in slop when you're on VR Chat or whatever, for all I know. But like, if there was ever a part of you that wanted to be a good person and accomplish great things and live a good life, and then whatever, like, if any of that is still a part of your psyche, morality, or what have you, like, you got to realize that VR Chat or Monkey Tag or whatever you're into is not going to make you into a highly skilled person, more likely than not. I mean, maybe you'll meet people that'll give you interesting ideas, and then maybe those interesting ideas, lead to you learning valuable things. But like, with that being said, you are surrounded by the worst types of people in the world when you're on VR chat, and you need to more be on like Thrill of the Fight 2, so that way you're sharpening yourself in a productive way. You should be trying to learn a trade or a skill. Norwegian child that subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should be trying to learn a trade or a skill. You should be trying to become the best VR boxer in the world like me. Now, what I am telling you is a dark and lonely road, and there's only a few people that I know of that can handle let's call it the left-handed path. Norwegian child that subscribed to my YouTube channel. The left-handed path is a lonely one, and everyone's gonna hate you like everyone hates me, but it is the path that leads to most self-improvement at all costs. You have to try to hold on to your morality, but the isolation is better than being on VR chat, because I see that you use VR chat, and VR chat is not a place for I don't know your morality. I don't know your morality. You could be like the worst kid ever. You could be like a stinker of a kid that has like a bad moral compass. But in the off chance that you are like a person that has been robbed of like innocence and morality by your environment, and if there is still some semblance of a person that has morality in you or something, you need to like get away from people at all costs. And I know that's going to lead to you being estranged and bullied, but now I know that isolating yourself from VR chat users is not a way to make a lot of friends and connections as a Norwegian child. And I mean, you could be more adept at social media than I was when I was young, but you ended up finding my channel, so probably not. You ended up finding my channel, so you're probably not a socialite. But with that being said, Norwegian child that subscribed to my YouTube channel, being isolated in your youth is actually a good way to stay out of trouble if you're gullible. And then, like I said, you need to so you've decided to be isolated and weird, right? You've decided to be isolated and weird, and it's probably not your fault, just like it wasn't my fault. You know, you probably had the best intentions, and you probably just wanted a social circle, you know, same as me. Unfortunately, Now, being isolated and weird may seem like a path riddled with nothing but negatives, and you could end up, and you will probably end up being the best VR boxer in the world, and no one will remember you for it, like me. But you will possess the skills of being the best VR boxer in the world, if that's in the cards for you. If that's in the cards for you, you could end up doing something totally different. But just know that even me, the stream Look, just know this, okay? This is getting into the part where the left-handed path is a lonely, isolated, winding path where regards like Saint 10 are gonna think that laughing emojis stop you from being the best VR boxer in the world. The left-handed path, a winding, lonely path where people like Saint 10 think that laughing emojis are going to stop you from where they people like Saint 10 are going to think that them coming to your YouTube live stream and spamming laughing emojis is going to stop you from being the best VR boxer in the world. The same way that people probably mock and ridicule you incessantly for being pale and Norwegian. Like, that's never going to go away. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse and take on various forms as you progress in life. And you'll find that the incessant mocking, ridiculing, threats, and attempts to coerce and control you by your peers is only going to get worse your entire life, because you are surrounded by untrustworthy, undesirable people that are jealous of their neighbors and wish to do them harm. But they'll do it covertly. They'll try to do it without your knowledge, because they won't have the bravery to confront you directly, because they're afraid of you and the police. That's the kind of people you're going to be surrounded by your entire life. you're surrounded by the kind of people that want to you're surrounded by backstabbers. You're surrounded by people that don't look people in the eye. You know, and that'll make sense to you as you get older. But you're surrounded by people that don't look you in the eye. And that's why you need to be reserved. It's why you need to be kind of stoic, because you're surrounded by people that don't look you in the eye. You're surrounded by people that have a problem with you, and they'll use a weapon before they look you in the eye. They'll blindside you and use a weapon before they look you in the eye. And you need look no further than what's been going on in the media recently to know that. You know, I remind myself of that when I'm in traffic all the time, is that, you know, I'm surrounded by people whose complacency causes everyone to suffer this every day. We all know that we're surrounded by a flawed system that needs refinement, that needs dramatic changes, that needs rapid work from thought leaders to be done. And if you think anything like I do, once you reach my age, it will infuriate you every day to know that you're surrounded by people who take jobs to defend this place, like such as the Lee County Sheriffs, the Cape Coral Police Department, the Fort Myers Police Department, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department, the Florida Department of Corrections. You're surrounded, the Lee County Clerk of Courts, the Lee County government, Fort Myers City Council. You're surrounded by people that are well aware that people are suffering greatly. You're surrounded by people that are well aware that others are suffering greatly. They know that their children are suffering. They know that their schools are spying on their children. They know that their resource officer at their school that their children goes to is more interested in sending their children to jail than they are keeping children safe. I mean, these are the people that you are surrounded by, and you're not wrong for having that instinct. You're not wrong for thinking that. You're not mentally ill for thinking that. People only have nefarious intentions. That's actually true, and the internet proves that every day, that people only have nefarious intentions. And you need to remember that every time they try to fool you by showing you an act of charity, or going, look, good things do happen in the world. Every time you see something on social media that's meant to give you this feeling of, oh, people aren't so bad after all, that's deception. Every time you see something on social media that is meant to give you that wholesome feeling, every time you see something wholesome on social media that's meant to give you a wholesome feeling, those are evil people trying to put on a mask of kindness. People like Saint 10 want you to think that they're charitable people, and those are bribes from demons. Charitable acts from people like Saint 10 are bribes. And we know this. We know this by what they say and what they represent gives you a clear indicator of where their minds actually are and what they actually believe. People like Saint 10, are not people you can do business with. People like Saint 10 are not people you can do business with because they're unreasonable. But they swear they are reasonable. You can't do business with someone like Saint 10. And it's funny because people like Saint 10 will preach things like don't show love to people that don't show love to you, yet people like Saint 10 defend the existence of the United States. You can't do business with people like Saint 10 when they'll preach something like don't show love to people that don't show love to you, but they show love to the United States. You can't reason with people like that. You can't reason with people that don't follow their own doctrine. You can't reason with people that preach things that conflict with their own ideology. You can't reason with someone. You can't reason with a world full of people that it's almost as if everything they preach they don't believe. You can't reason with a world full of people that are liars. Like, you can't. This world is never going to get anywhere because it is poisoned by lies. And even the people that claim they're the rarities, even the people that claim they're the rarities are liars. Even the people that claim they aren't liars are liars. You can't reason with a world that has no loyalty to anything. You can't reason with a world that thinks that genuinely has love for chaos. You can't get anything done in a world that thinks chaos should be the law. Like, our government writes one thing on paper and they do another thing in execution. That's the world we live in. We live in a world where the government writes one thing on paper and they do another. We live in a world where people like Saint 10 preach don't show love to people that don't show love to you, and then they do the exact opposite by showing love to the United States. So this is a world that is never going to go anywhere. And that's why I invented the nothing ever happens meme, which is another thing that I'm not credited for, because I don't get credited for any of my accomplishments, even if they're undeniable. Like something like Thrill of the Fight 2. Like, my accomplishments in Thrill of the Fight 2 are undeniable. My accomplishments in Thrill of the Fight 2 are undeniable. And I don't even get recognition for it locally. My local news wrote that I'm a criminal. My local news put an article out when I committed a crime, and they didn't put an article out when I became the best VR boxer in the world. That's the Lee County that I live in, and that's why I have no respect for this place. Okay? My local journalist wrote a news article when I was a patsy for a criminal that's done more harm to this area than I ever have. and I don't get any recognition from my local media when I become the best VR boxer in the world, and that's why I have no respect for the United States, and I never will. I have no respect for the United States, and I never will, because my local media wrote a news article when I committed a crime, which was actually me being a patsy for someone that's done more harm to Lee County than I ever will. But my local media didn't write a news article when I became the best VR boxer in the world. Okay? And it's because of people like the FBI, the Lee County Sheriff's Office, the Cape Coral Police Department, the Fort Myers Police Department, and the Florida Department of Corrections that I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to stop using my free time to preach how unjust this society is and how much this society needs to be dramatically restructured. It needs a new flag, it needs a new government, it needs new police, it needs new courts, all of its records need to be burned, like everything. All of this country's government's data needs to be thrown in a landfill. Like all of its computers, all of this country's government's computers need to be buried in a landfill or thrown in a volcano, never to be recovered or restored again. This government needs to be dissolved. All of the police need to be fired. None of their pensions need to be paid out. All of the government employees need to be fired. None of their pensions need to be paid out. Our money needs to be erased. Like everything. This country needs to be knocked over and rebuilt. That's just the simple fact of the matter. And I have a right to say this because it is written in the founding document of this country that that is what is supposed to happen when the government goes awry. It was written in the founding document of this country that I am supposed to seek out and try to help organize the abolishment and reconstruction of this government if the government ever goes off the rails. And I was taught this in school by my government. I was taught in school by my government that when and if the government goes off the rails, I am supposed to help organize the demolishing and reconstruction of the government, and that is what needs to happen. The government needs to be demolished and reconstructed, and that is what was written in the founding document of this country. What was written in the founding document of this country is that when the government goes awry, I'm supposed to seek out and help organize the demolishing of the government and the reconstruction of the government. And that is what needs to happen. It is a crime on all fronts that my local media wrote about me committing a crime, which was actually me being a patsy for someone that's done more harm to this local area than I ever have or will. It's a shame. It's about as depressing as you could possibly imagine. Imagine the most depressed feeling you could ever feel. Imagine the most apathetic state you could possibly be in, and that's where I'm at. I know for certain that I can't trust my neighbors. I know for certain that there's nowhere for me in this state where I was born. I know for certain that my local media wrote about when I committed a crime, which was actually me being a patsy for someone that's done more harm to this area than I ever have or will. But they didn't write about me being the best VR boxer in the world. Now, what does that tell you about your local government? What does that tell you about your local media? What does that tell you about your local journalist? These are the journalists of the area I was born in. They'll write about me being a patsy for someone that's done more harm to this area than I ever have or will. They didn't come to ask me what actually happened. They didn't come to ask me if justice was actually executed. The journalist of my local area just wrote a summary of what's on the Lee County Sheriff's website without fact-checking it or vetting it. They just took the Lee County Sheriff's at face value, and they didn't come to ask me if justice was actually delivered. They didn't come to ask me if the investigation was fair or accurate. They didn't come to ask me what actually happened. They didn't come to ask me if I was a patsy for someone that's lacing drugs that went on to cause people's deaths. They didn't ask me that. They just blanketly wrote and accepted what was on the Lee County Sheriff's website and published it to forever tarnish my reputation and make sure that's the only way I'm remembered. And then on top of it, when I become the best VR boxer in the world, my local media is nowhere to be found. The same local media that blanketly slandered me and gives the Lee County Sheriff's credibility and a megaphone and forever cements their shitty detective work as fact in journalism format, but they're nowhere to be found when I become the best VR boxer in the world. Where's the Lee County Sheriff's to sing my praises now that I've accomplished a feat of athleticism that's world class? Where's the Lee County Sheriff's to give me a good reputation after they forever tarnished my reputation in the place I was born? Where's the Cape Coral Police Department? Where's the Cape Coral Police Department? Where's the Florida journalist to come sing my good praises now that I've accomplished a world-class feat of athleticism? They're nowhere to be found. Where's my key to the city? Where's my key to the city? I'm the only person in this town that no one knows or care about. I'm the only person in Lee County that's ever accomplished a world-class feat of athleticism. I've done more than Tito Ortiz has. Tito Ortiz wasn't the first anything, let alone born in Lee County. And the Lee County Sheriffs are too busy getting on their knees to fellatiate Tito Ortiz. All right? The Lee County Sheriffs are too busy getting on their knees for a washed-up UFC fighter that came here to own a bar, okay? And coach his son's wrestling team, okay? They're too busy singing Tito Ortiz praises, but where was this whole county when I became the best VR boxer in the world? They couldn't even be bothered to show up to the stream or leave a like on it or to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All of these talentless hacks that I'm driving around here in Lee County, they were nowhere to be found. They were there to slander me. They were there to bail adolescents. They taught their kids to bully me. They taught their daughters to mock and ridicule me and to ignore me and to not marry and reproduce with me. That's what the citizens of Lee County did. But that police officer that just drove past me was nowhere to be found. You were nowhere to be found when I became the best VR boxer in the world, police officer. You were only there to put me in handcuffs and to ruin my life and my earning potential. Right as I got out of high school, that's where you were, officer. You were nowhere to be found, Cape Coral Police, when I became the best VR boxer in the world. You were just there to mock and ridicule me my whole life, Cape Coral Police. I see you there. I see you, Cape Coral Police. You weren't there when I became the best VR boxer in the world, buddy. No, you weren't. You were nowhere to be found when I became the best VR boxer in the world, Cape Coral Police. You were only there to do terrible detective work. Remember Dustin Taylor, Cape Coral Police? You let him murder people. You let Dustin Taylor murder people, Cape Coral Police. I remember you. I remember all about you, Cape Coral Police. Dustin Taylor, say his name, Cape Coral Police. Ivan Webb and Dustin Taylor, that's your fault. Your poor detective work. That was your poor detective work, Cape Coral Police. I see you there. That was your bad detective work. Dustin Taylor was your fault. That blood's on your hands and your badges, Cape Coral Police. Don't think I forgot. Yeah, I'm the one living with that limited earning potential because you wanted to let Dustin Taylor take a walk. Cape Coral Police, you think I forgot? Yeah, where were you when I became the best VR boxer in the world, Cape Coral Police? Where were you? Where were your shitty detectives then? Hey, where were your lackluster detectives when I became the best VR boxer in the world, Cape Coral Police? Where were your lackluster detectives, Cape Coral Police? They didn't even leave a like. They didn't even leave a like, Cape Coral Police. Hey, where was your local journalist? Where were your local journalists when I became the best VR boxer, Cape Coral Police? Where were your local journalists to write an article about that? Where were they then? Where were they then, Cape Coral Police? Where were your local police when I became the best VR boxer, Cape Coral? Where were they at? They didn't leave a like. They weren't in attendance. They didn't subscribe or like. Let's see if the Cape Coral Police are still up there.